I don't know if I'm supposed to do this or not, but I really can't pass up the opportunity. Oh, wow! Hey, I'm Jon Smith, and welcome to another Cool Stuff in Utah. Today, once again, I am in downtown Salt Lake City. Having lived here, grown up here, and even working downtown, there's one building that I drive past literally every day that I did not know had so much history. Today, we're in and literally on the Salt Lake City County building. So the building was originally constructed between 1891 and 1894 by the Freemasons. And if you think that political scandals and political arguments are a 21st century concept or even a 20th century concept, think again. The Deseret News actually ran an article accusing the liberals of spending way too much taxpayer money. We're talking $1 million in 1894 money. Think of how much money that would be today. I don't do math, so I'm not going to worry. So this building was finished in 1894. The state of Utah didn't exist until 1896, which means this building predates the entire state. The really cool thing is there's a lot of intricate carvings in the sandstone of the building. A lot of them are Freemason symbols. There's also carvings of some of the Native American chiefs that were around at the time of the building's construction. Jim Bridger's face, beehives, and for some reason, a sea monster. So about the 1960s, the building was literally starting to fall apart. Funny thing about sandstone, it doesn't do so well in harsh winter environments. Through the 1960s and the early 1970s, people would park their cars along the street and they would notice at the end of the day that their cars were covered in sand from the debris coming off of the building. They managed to secure a large chunk of money, and when I say large chunk of money, I mean $30 million spent before the building reopened and was rededicated in the late 1980s. Back when the state officials and the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints weren't oh so friendly with each other, this building was actually built to rival a newly completed Salt Lake City temple. It was the first building in the world to be seismically retrofitted to withstand an earthquake. When you're underneath the building, you can see the old foundation. This is the old foundation here, some of the old pipes and stuff that they would use for the filler. And now you can see where they've actually cut away the original foundation and put these rubber pillars underneath. So the entire building is now held up by these blocks of rubber. So even though we just had an earthquake back in March, the building was damaged, which, is there any, I mean, can you say minor damage? Is there any other kind of damage than just damage? But when you're dealing with a building that's 100 years old, any kind of damage is significant. So if you look right here, these were actually flush right before the earthquake. This entire pillar, the entire building has shifted this direction. Until 1915, it was actually the state capitol. It was also the city's first library. It housed all of the county operations until the 1980s. And up until recently, it served as the state courthouse, which means it had a lot of high-profile cases and a lot of high-profile criminals coming through here. Legendary tale of Joe Hill ended right here in this building when he was sentenced to death by firing squad in 1915. Also, room 445 was the room where they convicted Ted Bundy. It doesn't look all that spectacular when you come inside. It's used for the Housing and Neighborhood Development Department. At least it was until COVID. It's kind of weird. It clearly hasn't been used for anything lately because everybody's calendars are still set to March. All their plants are dead because everybody's been on quarantine. So it's kind of a time capsule. On the 5th floor, that's where you'll find the city attorney's office, which is right behind me. That's also where the stairwell is that leads up to the clock tower and the crow's nest. Whoa. No way, look at the, dude, look at the windows and stuff. You can see we've got a state flag here, which is folded and ready to fly, because we're out on the roof. You can see behind me here, this is one of 4 statues that are on the roof of the Salt Lake City County building. They stand for commerce, liberty, justice, and Columbia. In the 1930s, 2 of them were actually lost, ironically, in another earthquake, and were gone until the 1970s when they were replaced. So obviously, if you've ever watched old cartoons or old movies, you know the inside of a giant clock is like a whole bunch of like giant gears and wheels. And But no, the inside of the Salt Lake City County building clock actually was this guy. So during the 1970s and 80s remodel, this was the clock. This ran everything. This was taken out May 10th of 2020, the old clock and bell system. Since 2010, this is what's been running the clock. It looks like the thing that runs my sprinkler system at home. So here we are standing in the crow's nest of a building that is more than 100 years old that has been obviously damaged by a recent earthquake. And I'm kind of starting to second guess my decision to come up here because the floor is all warped and there's like holes. Am I safe? Is this safe up here? You've heard about tunnels underneath Salt Lake City. My friends, this is it. This is the tunnel that Ted Bundy would have been walked through to get to the courthouse from what used to be the jail. Right now we are walking underneath 2nd East. Like this is like the inside of a Navy ship. Like the inside of every Navy ship I've ever seen looks exactly like this. We've managed to find our way underneath the Leonardo and the Salt Lake City Library, which means I should probably put my mask back on. So that's definitely a lot more than I thought I was going to see today. Holy cow, that was cool. So my thanks to fellow history nerd Mike for helping us out today. My thanks to the Salt Lake City Mayor's Office and the City of Salt Lake for letting us come and check out the building. And of course, to you for watching Cool Stuff in Utah. Thank you so much. I appreciate all the downloads and views. Anything you want to see, make sure you like it, subscribe to it, and leave those comments below. Let us know where you would like us to go next on Cool Stuff in Utah. Bye! Snooping through a building that hasn't been used in 8 months, you find a lot of weird things. You find a lot of dead plants. You find everybody's calendar still set to before the pandemic happened. Why is this here? The building hasn't been used since March.